First off, my name is Mike Stephenson, and I'm the Director of Business Intelligence for BH Management Systems. BH Companies is actually three different entities. There's BH Equities, BH Construction, and BH Management. And we are actually using Quantrix in all three of those businesses. So we are kind of using it across the spectrum for that. And all of our Quantrix process as well, it's all cloud-based. So we signed up in January or December of 16 actually, and really started modeling in January of 2017, and we really hit the ground running and put together models quickly, and we had a good team to do that, and we started with cloud to start with. So we never used the desktop model exclusively. We always used cloud. We always had just a very few users who were using the desktop modeler, and then pushed everything else out to cloud where all of our other users are using cloud. I did download a list of users just a moment ago. We've got 378 users on cloud at this time. So it looks like, and a lot of those users are going to be on today as well. So they're actually doing a couple of budget camps today. We've got budget camps going on in the Midwest in several different states in the United States, and then we've got another budget camp firing up in Phoenix, probably about right now. So there's a lot of other users that are going to be logging on as well. It is a struggle sometimes to get your C-suite and get your leadership team to understand the power of what you're doing and the benefits that we all create within our organizations. Now, a lot of you guys are and ladies are consultants and have basically your own businesses and things like that. But those of you who are working for these corporations and things like that, it's so important that they understand the power of this Quantrix product and what it can do for them and how it can make their business more streamlined and more efficient. Back in December of 2016, I called Quantrix up, and here's an actual live shot of that phone call. And this is the first email that Tom wrote me back. So I heard about the form yesterday. I filled out the form on the website, and Tom responded to me, and then the rest is history. I jumped on a call with Michael, and basically we had also I think a board of directors. I think it was about 18 people probably were sitting in there on the first Quantrix call, and Michael had built a little budget model, just a kind of a rough draft off of one of our 50-page spreadsheets that we had built, and it had all these tabs and that. So he had taken that vision and transferred about 0.1% over into Quantrix, just enough, right? And so I think we finally signed up like maybe it was New Year's Eve. I was thinking it was like we ended up buying Quantrix on New Year's Eve of December 16, just in time. Good job, Tom. Yeah, something like that. BH Management, as I mentioned earlier, has three different entities, essentially BH Equities, BH Management Services, and BH Construction. And then we are using that, essentially we're using it for budgeting, asset management, valuation, and investor relations and investor reporting. And so that covers all four of those, two of the three facets on the previous page. Val right now is helping us with a construction model, which will be that BH Construction here pretty soon. So it'll very, very soon be in all three portions of the company. Mike mentioned, I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was today, I don't know, but it was the musical chairs. And so what I wanted to do is I do have a few slides from some of those camps that basically show some of these teams that are using Quantrix Cloud, and these are in our budget camps. And so what we do, because we manage apartment communities, it's very difficult a lot of times for the manager to set aside time to essentially build a budget for that particular community, because there's fires and there's floods and there's there's people who are mad because they can't pay their rent and they're getting evicted. There's other people that are mad that got their vehicle towed. So there's all these different facets of property management that keep that property manager from not being able to set aside this time. So a lot of our communities and a lot of our regions actually do these budgets in a camp scenario. So everybody travels to one location and actually sets up these camps, and then they all log into Quantrix at the same time. They all push the data connectors at the same time. They all slide the slide bars at the same time. The cloud team over here knows what I'm talking about the slide bars. So there's a lot of talking between the Quantrix application server and the Quantrix model servers, and in one of our recent camps we were up to about 1.4 million, correct me if I'm wrong, calls or requests, 1.4 million requests per day during the most recent Dallas Fort Worth budget camp. That's the application talking to each other, which is a really high number for the software, and so there's a lot of beef there, and there's a lot of calculations going on, and there's a lot of things that we have to do. So here are Charlotte and Miami. Notice I'm in a lot of these pictures, so I did travel to these locations. That is me in the back, and so Charlotte, Miami, Dallas, Denver. Actually, this is my forehead, and this is my forehead right here, and my forehead was in this picture. I think I cropped it out actually. There is Orlando and Tampa. I did not go to those locations. Jason Knotts did that budget camp. Then the North Texas, Louisiana group. Once again, there's my forehead, and basically, so in our national footprint, currently we manage apartment communities in 20 different states, over 80,000 units. I looked at the email that I sent Tom initially back in December of 16, and it said, hey, call me, we're BH Management. We manage over 60,000 apartment homes nationwide. So we've gone up in unit count by 20,000 apartment homes since I first spoke with Tom less than 2 years ago. And so our niche market is A and B properties. We typically either do value add on those communities, or we do have some that are more stabilized as well. This slide is essentially kind of a network operating control room of sorts with all of our servers, and so this particular piece, and what this shows is essentially the different Quantrix model servers that we have running right now, and also the Tomcat server and the SQL server and the file server. And so we're at our peak season right now, and so I actually have this running right now in real time. And so you can kind of see that we've got model server, there's 8 of those total. And then basically the file server, SQL server, this is okay, don't worry about that. And then the Tomcat server. So thanks, Shane, for getting that all balanced for us. Yeah. So simultaneous models, we did have 117 was the max number. So at the same time they're in cloud. So that was a cool deal. So let's go ahead and jump in. So here is my list of models in the cloud, and part of the reason I'm demonstrating in cloud is that so you can see see the cloud environment as well. All these little locks that you see on the right hand side, those are models that are currently open. So these are users that are currently using those models right now, which is kind of impressive just to be able to see exactly who's in there. And so if you're not using cloud, one of the neatest things is I can just hover over this lock right here, and it shows me that, hey, the Tempe Vista manager is currently in this model. So it just allows me to be able to see exactly who's in the system right now. There's not necessarily a report, but you are able to hover, or Steve, there's not necessarily a report, but you are able to hover over it and see who's using that. And so let's go ahead and jump into the budget sample that I've got here, and I selected one moment, 1046, let's use. So I want to show a property that we own. So it's not, so I'm not showing you proprietary information. This year we created last year we had a couple of dates in the model that moved based on the calendar date, which created some issues for us because sometimes people didn't want to bring in that data, based on the calendar date. Sometimes they wanted to basically be stuck in a specific period of time, and so this has always been in the model, but it hasn't been on the front end. And so what we have is some users who are like super users that have the ability to get into this admin canvas, which basically allows that end user to control this date lock function. And those super users, who are also our regional managers, they have been trained on how to use the date lock function. And so essentially these budgets here, they would come in and just put that date lock in, and then they go through and just run through these data connectors. And so I was really excited about this morning's announcement of automatic data connectors. That's super exciting because we have completely automated a lot of our process from our data source all the way through to almost the very end, and then you go into Quantrix and you push the button, right? So now that we can automate that section as well, my users can open up the model and essentially be, they'll have the true data from the previous night or that morning or whenever we choose to run that script. And as we were talking about having the models open or not, and I was thinking about time zones and this and that, I'll probably just send an email and say, hey, the models aren't available at this particular time. Is probably what I'll have to do, just kind of to manage that. Luckily, we're not spread out all over the world, so it's a little easier for us to just knock it out in the middle of the night. And I know a lot of you are dealing with multinational models and things like that. So I can see some challenges with the timing of that. It's not going to affect us at the moment, but so there's that. Let me go ahead and import financials. So we also, in January of 2017, Val's like, your data is really screwed up. This really isn't going to work. You're not going to be able to use this data in this format. And so we started warehousing, and we started building a data warehouse, and so now we've got 5-6 different databases full of 100 tables of each, and some of that's built through API, some of it's built through SSIS packages on flat files. So there's different ways that we get that information. But we've built some automated secret sauce scripts that allow us to get those files in the correct location and really automate that process. So then we come in and so some of these connectors, and the reason that they're split up is because these are a lot of different locations. So it may be different databases, different maybe there's one flat file in here still. And the reason that they're split up is if something does break, it doesn't blow up the whole thing. We're able to isolate, hey, this data connector didn't work or anything like that. So I went in and I updated all of those connectors. And what that does is it allows me to start where the end user comes in, and they're going to basically come in to the budget at this canvas here, which is the start page. And so this is where the typical user will actually begin their budgeting process. This year we did build an index canvas, which allows us to basically have better navigation, and so we're able to essentially go. And if we want to look at CapEx, we can look at CapEx. If we want to go back to expenses, we can go back in and look at expenses. If we want to go to taxes and insurance, that index link is always right here to the right of our BH management logo, and so it allows us to navigate the models without having to go tab by tab and use the right. You may have done a video on that. I don't think I've seen it, but so that's just a little trick that we did there. So I'm just I really am gonna walk you through. So we have 1,550 GL codes that we code items to, and so what we've also done is we built a glossary for our budget, and so each one of these GLs is it has a formula out here. So we've maintained a user-friendly, even a more user-friendly version of the Quantrix formula, kind of in real estate terms, like exactly how we calculate that specific GL. So every single GL that's in the budget, the user can come in and look at accounts and see, does that come from cleaning contract turn cost times total move-outs for the month, or is that calculated by a prior year total and adding the percentage growth, which is also a different matrix that's in there. So, if the user gets stuck at any point in time, we've tried to create these user-friendly pieces that allow the teams to be able to go in and really look and see what we were thinking whenever we formulated that or created that. Interestingly enough, there's about 10 different ways to calculate effective rent, and so effective rent or economic occupancy or financial occupancy, especially when you're doing it to the GL. Do you include concessions? Do you include one-time concessions? Do you include recurring concessions? Do you, so basically we had to come up with a BH way, like an actual BH. This is the formula, right? This is that. So not only do we have to create the data warehouse and formulate all these real estate terms, then we had to document that and put that in our model, and then we had to translate that into Quantrix formulas. So it's been a challenge, and it's been so the beta 1. So we started modeling in January of 17. We got a rough warehouse up by like March of 17 that had all of the GL accounts, and it had 10 years of historic data, maybe April. And then we had a working model by about July of 2017. So in 6 to 7 months, we had a working budget model from start to finish with no warehouse. And basically, we obviously it was definitely a rough cut. It would not pass validation with you guys for a full release. So we did make several changes on the fly running. Have to pull the models down, make a change, do this or that, and we ended up getting through budget season and generating the budget packages. We did a lot of manual report generation last year because a lot of our legacy users, those guys that use, what do you call that other program, Rich? That one. So banks really like that. Owners really like that. A lot of times, investors that you deal with who obviously don't have a Quantrix modeler on your system. So what we've done this year also is it's a big improvement from last year. Is we created a reporting canvas, and so this essentially lists the different matrices that we're about to generate. And so I'm going to go ahead and just click Export Budget. And I don't know why they opened this text file in this program. It baffles me. I mean, CSV is just a text file, guys. So you'll see what it is. It's an Excel export. So and so basically those owners and those legacy users that are still using Excel, we are able to provide all of our information to them through this package that we get to pre-prepare. And so the benefit of that is that we get to put our stamp of approval on what gets sent out to our owners. We may have 100 different clients or whatnot, and so we have a approved budget package that we produce out of Quantrix that we can provide them, and the end user has the ability to go in and make changes based on maybe owner says no, strike capex item 14 through 27. We're not going to spend that money this year. You can do that, and then they can come back in here and re-export another budget export. And then basically, and we've got a whole back end workflow where they then push that into SharePoint, which then goes back into our accounting software. And so we've got some different workflows built around that process. And so that is the budget model. I mean, there are, some of the pieces, probably the most intense piece is this CapEx portion. And Val really played a huge part in getting this for us. And we went all the way back to the drawing board on this year. And so this did get a totally, it looks totally different than it did last year. But it works quite similarly to last year, where you come in and you choose, hey, this is going to be an interior or an exterior improvement, and then it's going to go ahead and open up additional sections. And so we tried to do this like we were thinking kind of TurboTax style, where it asked the user a series of questions, because what we're trying to do is figure out a GL account. So maybe we're going to do a ceiling fan improvement in here, and maybe our cost per is 110, say. And then basically, and it's going to say, hey, is this project part of an approved rehab renovation? If you say yes, it's going to go ahead and throw 1778-16. But if you say no, it's going to ask you additional questions. So your end user comes in here and says, is the project to repair or routine maintenance? Well, yes, in fact, this is a routine maintenance. Well, that shouldn't be here at all. This should be booked under repairs and maintenance, right? So maybe no, and it's going to go ahead and continue asking me questions until we get it right. And basically, maybe it's this here. Maybe no, it's not one of those really. You know how it is. So that's how it works. That's how we got to 8618-16. That's also based off of some other entities, because we have other depreciation schedules for other ownership. So it's also pulling in the property number, and it's looking who owns that property, and then basically it's actually able to know which tax basis, or which basis of accounting are you using? Are you tax basis? Or are you GAAP basis? And so it knows which property it is, and all that logic was written by Valerie back there. It's pretty slick, so good job. That's one of the most intensive processes of the budget model there. I want to show you one other model, and so this is the monthly financial analysis. And so this particular model is an asset management report that Jennifer Davis and Tyler worked on this year, and essentially, basically, I've already run through these data connectors here, but some of those really hefty asset management terms and formulations are in this particular model, and so what we have done is in these sections and in this like print PDF view, we've created these canvases. So essentially, we can drop this PDF into an email, and so we've got some nice clean reporting. We've branded all of those canvases as well, with the BH Equities logo or BH Management logo or whatever it may be. That way, we've got some reporting packages that we can create, and then in some of our other style reports, these are actually views that Tyler created. I didn't create them. I was like, hey Tyler, can you do this? And he just does it. It's amazing. And so some of these views that we've created, this allows you to basically it gives you a PDF in a report style package where you've got your 12-month numbers and actually all of your column headers repeat, and then we've built our matrices in a fashion, in a format that we actually have a year-to-date annualized, and a comparison to budget in the matrix itself. That way we can pull it up in a view, and we're able to basically create some nice reporting packages, that you guys are familiar with, and that people understand and look like a real financial statement. And so that's kind of one of the neat things that we've done. There's also like a pro forma view, which is something that this was like the unicorn that we chased and finally got it. We're able to compare our actuals to our pro forma, and then basically we can do a year one or a year or two based on the acquisition date. And so, that way we've got that all formulated, and you can see how you're doing based on what you told the bank you were going to do whenever you got the loan for the property. So, so that is something super cool. I'm going to do one little wow factor thing, which I think is just super cool, and hopefully you guys do too. We're going to look at this acquisition budget. So one of the issues that we had with our current budget model is that it always does 12 months. You're building a budget. You're always going to build a budget for January through December, essentially. What we have done, and once again, I use the term we. So Valerie and Tyler, I really don't know which one of you guys figured this out, but it was like 1 week they were telling me it's impossible. You can't do what you want to do. I'm like, well, just see if you can do it. Yeah. And then a week later, they're like, okay, we got a little closer. And then next week, you can't do it. You just can't do it. But so what we've done is we've got a flexible date controller now that basically that allows you to create the length of number of months that you want to budget for. So if we buy a property in February of the year, we can build a budget through the end of the year by just selecting 10. Or if in changing this to February, obviously, or if you buy it in November of 1 year and you want to do it for 14 months, you can actually do that in 14 months, and your matrix is changing based on the date selection that you've done. Now, probably we had to retrofit this into the budget model that we created last year. If we had started from scratch trying to do this, it would have probably been easier to build it from scratch. But part of our challenge was retrofitting it into all of the other summaries and everything. So with that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.